Tashi, sustaining the Tibetan settlement in exile is the mainstay of our critical political situation. What we must do to retain the settlement is something that I've been working on my own level for more than a decade now, approaching Professor Samdong Rinpoche at the time when he was the Prime Minister. If we are able to sustain the settlement, it will engender the maximum impact on our political endeavor. What we must do to hold the settlement is profess and work on unity, innovation, and self-reliance. We are not a divided lot as such, but the unity we currently see is a skewed one, because equality breeds unity. Our current society is pulled apart by two opposite ends. A lot that is downtrodden and struggling to make ends meet to be able to rise above that and pay any attention to our political situation. On the other end is the ones on pedestal living comfortably enough not to feel the need to get anything done. Unity can be physical, verbal, and spiritual. What we need is a functional unity. Unity will need innovation, initiative from administration, initiative that seemingly defies the moot point of unity but is a long-term measure that confronts the reality to instill a sense of oneness in the long run. I approached Professor Samdong Rinpoche in 2003 and 2004. Rinpoche was very receptive and welcomed the idea, but I will never be able to guess why he thought that is not an opportunity that the Tibetan needs. Then in the last election, I approached Kalu Gyari, who said she recognizes the potential in implementing the plan and said she will be willing to work on something alike if she is elected the Prime Minister. I'm glad I was able to take out time and support her candidacy, hoping to see it materialize. Consequently, when she was chosen as the Home Minister, she did an incredible work and has achieved a lot of tangible things within her tenure, and I appreciate her for that. I have similarly approached the incumbent Sikyong, Dr. Lobsang Sangila, after he was elected the Sikyong and before he was elected too in New Delhi and Dharamsala. I consulted him about the opportunity for Tibetan to obtain seasonal work visa, gain mobility, be financially more viable, and eliminate the need to migrate elsewhere, leading to dispersion where we don't have a place called settlement. There was no response at all. I have, in my opinion, three ways to strengthen the opportunity for retaining the settlement in exile: seasonal employment abroad to increase income, seeking income tax exemption to gain more level playing field, and my personal project called Drop of Ocean, where we try to instill a sense of nationality in a new generation Tibetan and financially contribute to self-reliance in the process of doing that. I shall explain it later. Here are a few things I approached former Sikyong Professor Samdong Rinpoche as a common man then. I did express how I am against the fact that Central Tibetan administration has sent 1,000 people to America because we are a minority race who can use more population, not lesser, and be together. I personally could not count too much on the group of people who moved out because the United States is one of the most affluent countries with highest GDP rank made of immigrants, and it's unlikely that they would return to India. But honestly, we do see consistent contribution from people abroad, Tibetan people. Some of our most pivotal political leaders are located there. Most of it, I believe, has to do with the fact that it is the current generation blessed with His Holiness Dalai Lama in our midst. Yet the new generations who are born and raised there are struggling, along with their parents who are struggling to instill an identity in them. Very few could speak our own language, and language is the key to sustaining national identity. They are less likely to be able to retain their identity as it is so much harder, scattered everywhere. The reality is that very few of them could speak Tibetan language, a lifeline to our identity and culture. I don't blame them as they are raised away from their second home, but that is the reality today. The second issue I consulted Professor Samdong Rinpoche with was the changing situation of the sweater seller in Tibetan community, which is the major occupation across different settlements in India. The sweater sellers are getting by, making do, but it is not as it used to be when we first started off as a new phase, and few could tell the merchandise that we sell is not from Nepal or China. The number of shops has increased 10 times since then, and the customers are more informed about the merchandise being from Ludhiana or Delhi. Similarly, the customer are able to get the same clothes at lower cost outside the Tibetan market sold by the Indian sellers, who don't have to cover the cost of commuting that Tibetan people has to, coming from places all over India. The way the aspiring sweater sellers build the root capital is by obtaining couple of lakhs from wholesaler, couple of lakhs from one's home, and couple of more from the banks to be able to run the business. But right now we are still getting along because of the sheer number of Indian population and by the grace of God. However, it is not unfathomable to think that come some major changes and rules in Indian milieu, we are susceptible to going bankrupt at any time and be drowned in debt the way we are functioning right now. There is no safety net. So I did ask Rinpoche what alternative we have. And another thing that I consulted him was about the ongoing opportunities for Tibetan to work in Israel temporarily, which is a praiseworthy move as it ensured that everybody comes back and is not separated from family, their culture and roots, but gains some mobility and financial freedom. Similarly, we can find such avenues with countries that are economically more viable, and it could serve our purpose much stronger. And once that is streamlined and thousands start gaining mobility and coming back in time, from countries like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, US, and any other countries in Europe, it forges a sense of unity where the government looks after the welfare of its people, strengthening the public enough to be in a position to contribute their income per certain minutes back to the government, which is strengthened in turn. The government can then afford to pay the staffs better, afford to pay real attention to the needs of the children, who we call the future seeds of Tibet, by equipping the teachers with better facilities and more competent remuneration that the profession deserves. If we could carry it out, it creates a semblance of equality, pulling the two ends together to forge unity, because we are able to innovate and be self-reliant in turn. Therefore, I approached everyone in the office for more than a decade with certain hope and looking for direction and support. In the absence of any of these things, I am today, at the age of 50, compelled and obliged to come out and stand as a candidate for Sikyong 2016 because of my long-held aspiration and hope for the Tibetan community. I am not in any ways undermining the position and the seat. I am out in public for scrutiny, irrespective of whether I am ready, whether I am able to, or whether I have the courage to do so or not. In early 1960s and 70s, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama first granted the gift of democracy, China was fast to question its authenticity, having called us a feudal serfdom all this while. But in recent years, as the democracy kept flourishing, and especially when the election of Dr. Lobsang Sangila, an exile-born, Harvard-educated Tibetan, as the political leader of Tibet, we just cemented the fact. The fact that I, a backward Tibetan, a shepherd who could not pursue education, am today standing for the candidacy of Sikyong, should further cement the fact and unnerve China about how we are a progressive race where everyone from any social strata has the opportunity to do their parts. It should only embolden the common Tibetan to recognize our democratic setup and participate more and not worry about the naysayers. Looking back, I could not help wondering given the dwindling number of people in Tibetan settlement, if we have worked on any aspect of this opportunity I'm discussing about, we would be in much better position today. Yet, we're not late today, I believe. If someone works on it sincerely, someone in position, we can all envision what it would be like in the next 10 years. We should be able to recover some lost grounds and cover more. Seasonal visa and mobility-related opportunity should not and is not restricted to people in CTA-ruled settlements. It applies to all the Tibetans scattered in settlements and, of course, the new arrivals from Tibet. Seasonal visa and mobility. The new arrivals, as we all know, with their lack of knowledge of local language, which is natural, faces constraint from making the most of their business acumen and are at times forced to go back and seek refugee asylum elsewhere in Western countries. From what I know, I believe our new arrivals, brethren, come to India for three main reasons. The foremost being the acute desire to seek His Holiness' blessing. The second is to seek education in a free country. And the third is lurking at the back of their mind to see the exiled fellow Tibetans in a free country and feel a sense of safety and unity. The first two are well met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama's blessing. However, the last one is questionable, as we have not forged the best relationship possible yet, and there is an obvious void and lack of unity. We must remember, apart from many other things, we are able to hold onto our identity and claim our identity mainly because of the Tibetans struggling in Tibet, manning the fort for us. Our relationship with them is currently strong and heartfelt because of three major things. The first is the fact that we are of the same blood. The second reason is the fact that His Holiness is our anchor for all the Tibetan and a bond of unity. The third and the precarious fact is that the efforts of the new arrival helps maintain a close emotional ties with our folks back home. We need to work on making our new arrivals feel safe and strong enough not to have to seek asylum the second time. And it rests mainly on how the exiled government forge better means of assimilation and administer it. I shall stop here with my views about seasonal work visa and its impact as one of the means to sustain and retain the settlements in exile, as I so fervently hope. I have two more points to discuss in the same line, which are Drop of Ocean, a personal project that I initiated, and our hope to get an income tax exemption from Government of India to be able to establish more standard business in exile. Thank you so much.